and welcome everyone. You are joining us. My name is Pia Maffei, and I'm joined as always by Sharissa Bradley. And we're here for a very special Monday Night Insights because we have an awesome guest today. His name is Paul Greive, and he is the co-owner of Primal Pastures here in Temecula, Murrieta, California. Before we start with Paul and the questions we ask, we want you to know that we are doing commandment number 3. So if you're following along, please visit us at www.iamcleaneater.com, and there you'll be able to see all 10 of the 10 commandments for clean eating. So the past couple weeks we were working on commandment number 1, let the ingredient list guide you. Commandment number 2 is go organic or at least non-GMO. And then number 3 is watch out for deceptive marketing. And there's a lot of deceptive marketing when it comes to food labels. There's a lot of deceptive marketing when it comes to restaurants and what they're advertising and what kind of food that we're buying. And so this interview will come in and out of trying to understand what it is that we're buying and try to make better choices. Okay, so Paul, let's first start with at least give our audience a little bit of understanding of where is Primal Pastures, how could they contact you directly, and then we're going to get into what makes your meat different. Yeah. But let's just start there.
Get into the meat of it later.
Yes, no pun intended.
I'm going to restart my live.
All puns intended.
Really quick.
Okay.
It died for some reason.
Okay.
So, hey guys, Farmer Paul here with Primal Pastures. Our story's really basic. We just couldn't find what we wanted in the grocery store. We were tired of being misled and paying extra for free range and cage-free stuff that was all coming from the same place. And so we just started growing some stuff in our backyard, and that turned into a business. So that business is Primal Pastures now. We ship to 8 or 10 different states, and we've got pasture-raised meats is what we specialize in. Everything's certified organic and soy-free, species appropriate, which we'll talk about today, what that kind of means. But yeah, we have a farm-to-doorstep delivery program that we're pretty excited about, and we've had fun building it over the last 5 years.
Yes, that's awesome. You're celebrating your 5th year this year?
6th year
this
year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So we're here 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're thrilled to have their meat in our store at Artisan's Palate. Now, there's a graphic that I'm working on, and I would love to get your feedback on this graphic. And I think we're going to eventually post this online, because I think what people are not understanding well enough is what are people buying.
Right.
Okay, so there's this graphic here, and I'm just going to turn it around real quick so people can get an idea of what it looks like. And we'll post this, and then Paul, probably on your social media. Yep. I'll just show it over here for the 2 live feeds that we have going on here. And so it's a pyramid basically, and at the base of the pyramid here, we have what we've called, and I think what is normally known in the industry as industrial food, right? And the importance of, well, I don't know about the importance, but the the reason we have that food is really to feed billions of people. But I don't think people understand that it's all the food that's out there, right? Like it's all the produce, and it's all the meat, and it's all the processed food, and it's everything that you would buy, whether you go to Chipotle and spend $8 on protein veg starch, or go to Cheesecake Factory and spend $16 on protein veg starch, it's the same industrial food. Yep. Right? Okay, so
even if you go to like Ruth Chris and spend $200 on protein, starch, and whatever it is, vegetables, it's still the same food.
It's still the same food. It's
if the Cisco truck is dropping it off.
If the Cisco truck is dropping it off.
Which it is.
That's what it is.
It's the same food that we're all eating across the country.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
It's the 90+%, right?
90+%.
And then the next tier up is probably the next 9.9% after that.
Sure. Yeah. Right. So the next tier up, we say, is industrial organic.
Right.
Okay. And we'll have a whole blog associated with this where you can read more in depth, and we want to actually get to a couple levels above this, but I'd like to get your comments as we go up the line.
For sure.
So industrial organic is there to feed the millions of people. So that's meat again, same, whether it's red meat, white meat, it's produce, it's industrial, organic, processed foods.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So that's everything. Soda.
Yeah, there's organic.
There's organic soda, yeah. Exactly,
yeah.
yeah. So all of these things, you can have the same types of foods in industrial, just that now it's labeled organic.
Yeah.
Okay? And some people see that as the gold seal for food.
Totally.
Okay? And so what's your take on that level of food?
Well, let me start with the bottom level. So industrial food,
Okay.
What does that really look like, especially in the animal space? I always like to talk about poultry because that's what I'm most familiar with. So imagine that 600-foot long barn, 40 feet wide, 40,000 birds inside of there. You've all seen the pictures online.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty disgusting. You smell it while you're driving up the freeway. I mean, it's scary looking, but it is how we feed the billions,
Right.
And it's actually the one that bothers me almost the least, because if you're being open, honest, transparent about it, we're doing factory farming.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're producing cheap food.
Right.
You're producing food for the masses. It is what it is. You're being honest about it.
And if
you know
everybody
what you're
understands
getting.
it, yes,
Exactly.
You know what you're paying
yes.
for.
Exactly.
You know
Yes,
that when you
that's the
go
difference.
to the grocery store, the big box store, and you're buying 24 eggs for $1,
Yeah.
that those eggs were feedlot animals.
Exactly.
You know it, and they're not trying to lie about it.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what really bothered me was you take that same... Okay, so first of all, in that barn, you've got vaccines, you've got antibiotics, you've got drugs going into these animals, the waste, the excrement, they're putting on spray fields, it's toxifying groundwater, it's toxifying, polluting the air. The communities that live in there are being devastated because they can't go outside anymore and have a barbecue because it smells so bad. A lot of problems with industrial sort of, modern day food production. But again, it doesn't bother me that much because they're being open and honest and transparent about it. The level that kind of starts to bother me is when you go up the tiers, but you don't get all the way up to like level 4 or 5.
Right.
And then it becomes this greenwashing idea of like, oh, well, it's organic free range. Okay, so take that exact same barn, 600 feet long, 40 foot wide, 40,000 birds. You open the door to the 110 degree Fresno heat. There's no food or water or shade out there for the animals, but technically they have access to the outdoors. So that's free range chicken all of a sudden,
Yeah.
And the
That's the
consumer walks
deceptive
by
marketing.
well, I think so.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
most people think so.
Yes.
And that's what made me mad enough to order chickens,
Yes.
But most people walk through the grocery store and say, oh my gosh, like free range organic chicken, that must mean these animals are outside and eating bugs and worms and grasses and all this great stuff,
Well,
but
it's
it's
not that they're just thinking that it's, and maybe we even need to give them a little bit of credit because there's a picture on the front
Exactly.
of the packaging that's got a cute little girl holding this healthy, plump little head
Totally.
out in this big grassy area. It's not like they're just like totally brainwashed. They're thinking they're doing the right thing, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's what makes it so sad.
It's intentional deception,
Huge,
Yes.
yeah.
But
which
I
really
think-
bothers me.
I think, though, at the industrial level, you'll still find words like free range.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that's deceptive marketing there too, because
Absolutely.
or they'll say no antibiotics.
Yep.
And what does that mean when they say no antibiotics at the industrial food level or industrial organic level? What does that mean?
All right, if you're watching this, go right now to the National Chicken Council website. That's the factory farming kind of lobbyist organization in DC, and look up antibiotic-free chicken. It will say, plain as day, all chicken is antibiotic-free. And you think, well, how's that possible?
Right.
80% of antibiotics are used in livestock production, a healthy portion of that's in poultry. So what does that really mean? You can take a chick from the day it was born to the day it was slaughtered and give it antibiotics every single day and still have antibiotic-free chicken. So how's that possible?
Right.
What it means is that the FDA tests that meat for an antibiotic residue that's under the set threshold parts per billion of antibiotic junk in the meat, and that's how they justify calling it antibiotic free. And you and me, we're in this, like we're in this
I know.
industry.
Yes.
We're people that are educated about this
Yes.
stuff, and we barely even know this.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that that's another very misleading, intentionally misleading, deceptive practice. So you're going to go out and say, oh, antibiotic-free chicken, but it had antibiotics its whole life.
Yes.
The FDA or the FDA is saying,
Right.
oh, well, no, it's not very much. It doesn't trace through the meat, this and that. It's like, that's not what people think.
And is it also true, Paul, that it means that 3 days before they slaughter the animal, they don't
Not
inject
always.
it? It's
Not
not
always.
Okay.
It's
It could be how
all
many days?
varies on the different antibiotic, the different class. Some are 30
Okay.
days, some are 10 days. It's different for beef, lamb, pork,
Okay.
chicken. but some are up to the day of slaughter.
Oh.
And antibiotics is just one chemical that they can also use the vaccines.
Yeah.
And there's also a class called drugs. That's not antibiotic, but it's hormones, it's different things that are added to the feed, it's all kind of different byproducts and different weird chemical stuff. That doesn't always have to be classified as an antibiotic. It can be called a drug.
Okay.
Then you can say, oh, these animals are never ever, never got antibiotics, but they had drugs their whole life.
Yes.
So
This
it's
is the
another
new,
misleading.
this is the new marketing. So
Yeah.
just this weekend, I never watch TV because I don't have cable. But when we were staying in a hotel this weekend in Palm Springs, and I have we're watching the Olympics, and these commercials come on for the big chicken people, right?
Sure.
I won't name names,
Yes.
but
Right,
the
right.
big chicken people.
Yes.
And it's that imaging, we're outside,
Yes.
everybody's
I know
free,
the-
blah
I know
blah
the
blah.
commercial.
And then they're like, our chickens never get antibiotics. You will have our promise. And it's the same people that have got my big pet peeve is when they've got it on the side of the truck, 100% vegetarian fed.
Oh my God.
And I yell at people like, I want to shake you. They are not vegetarians,
Yeah, right.
you
Yes.
know? And it's the same people. They're 100% vegetarian fed and no antibiotics.
You know what that really means is that they never actually got to go outside to eat
Yes.
a bug or a worm like they were supposed to, right? It's not a good thing, it's a
not
bad
a
thing.
good thing.
Yeah.
I want you to repeat one more thing, though, to make sure everybody heard it, which is when you said, what was the statistic of the 80% of the pharmaceuticals in this industry, the pharmaceutical industry,
In the
If not
country.
more. If
in
not
the
more.
country is specific to giving those pharmaceuticals to the animals on livestock that we're eating.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's for industrial food and industrial organic food?
Absolutely.
Or it's the same?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
There's many antibiotics, there's different drugs, almost every vaccine is allowed under organic. There's all kinds of stuff that's allowed under organic, as long as it's free range. There's a couple regulations on antibiotics, a little bit on how much space is required in that indoor facility. But if you or I go to an organic factory farm and a regular factory farm, it looks the exact same. It doesn't look any different or smell any different.
So
for
the
that matter.
main difference is the feed is organic.
Exactly.
So in industrial food, when we're talking hens right now, so we're not
Sure.
talking cattle or it's a similar
Pretty
type
similar,
thing,
though, pretty similar.
But just to have a visual, so the hens are being fed corn and soy
Yep.
at the industrial level,
Absolutely.
and then you pay extra for organic, and then all that means is it's organic corn and soy.
Exactly.
That's accurate.
95%. They're
Okay.
allowed to blend in 5% GMO and everything else
Okay.
under that organic label. There's 157 fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides allowed under the organic label.
Yeah.
So it's better than nothing, but it's
Right.
not perfect. It's far from perfect.
Right. But it is one step up
It is
from
good,
industrial organic.
Yep.
Okay. So that's our image right now. And then above industrial organic, we labeled industrial pasture. And for me, in my opinion, and this is the food here in industrial pasture is different because now it's really just meat and eggs
Sure.
and dairy. Because you're not going to get industrial pasture, power bars.
No.
Right? So
Yeah.
it's going
Right.
to be, that's kind of at that level, right? So for me, this is almost an oxymoron.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of this level because I feel like, well, and this is what we're going to get into when we get to the top level, which is where you're at, which is how do they turn the land,
Totally.
right? Which is what all this is coming down to. So you have the hen. They say, okay, well, it's in a little bit larger area. Is that accurate?
So when we went to the USDA to be allowed to put pasture raised on our chicken products,
Okay.
here's what we had to do. Half a page, 2 paragraphs with 2 pictures from our farm. We submitted that. 3 days later, we get a letter back from the USDA saying, you're good to go. You can put pasture raised on your meat. I mean, are you kidding me?
Oh
Is
my
that
gosh.
real?
Yeah.
So it's not federally regulated. It's an affidavit. It's a honest, it's
Yeah.
honor system of being able to put that on your meat. So seeing pasture raised, even though it's the gold standard sort of green label right now, it doesn't mean a whole lot.
I mean, it goes back to one of the other commandments, which is you really have to ask questions. So I talk about eggs all the time because we have eggs in the store. I mean, it's hard for us to keep them in the store, but they're true pasture eggs.
Right.
They were laid and picked on a Saturday, and then I have them on Monday, and
Yeah.
people are, so they're true pasture. So this industrial pasture, people say, oh, look, it says, pasture, this is what, and they're paying $7.99 to $8.99 more. I mean, We sell them for $6.99 a dozen. And then we're like, okay, well, when were the eggs laid and picked? Probably, what, 30 or plus days ago?
Eggs could be 6 months.
Oh.
I mean, egg,
Even pasture?
no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
We think we're doing a little bit better, and then it's like,
you could be. I mean, you could be. That's the
Yeah.
problem. When it's not local,
yes.
how do you know, right?
Right, exactly.
So there's
And that's
an
our
egg
point.
company that we're all
Yes.
talking about that probably everybody here knows.
Yes.
And I don't know. The marketing looks great, but
Yeah.
you've never been there, and I don't know anybody who's ever been there. And so
Right.
it's like, I hope it's really good.
Well, I
But-
do know they're still feeding them corn and soy. So
Oh, well, that's normal.
I
Yeah.
hope. So our position under I Am a Clean Eater, and again, if you're just joining us, we recommend that you go to our website. It's www.iamacleaneater.com, and you can follow us along with understanding what these 10 commandments are for clean eating. And we're focusing on commandment number 3, which is deceptive marketing. And then we're joined by Paul Greive, who's co-owner of Primal Pastures. I'm your host, Pia, and this is Sharissa. And so we created this, and we're going to post this in our show notes, an image that Paul is actually guiding us through. And we're just in the middle of the pyramid. It's called industrial pasture. I think the three of us don't really buy into this level too much.
Here's the
Is that
thing.
Only
accurate?
in like emergency situations, like
Yeah.
making a cake. I don't have any eggs. I'm
Totally.
gonna go to the store and I'm gonna buy
Yes,
this.
Exactly,
that's right.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
I do
really,
the same.
I mean, still
Yes.
in an industrial sense, and the reason it's still got the industrial label to it is because it's something that you're gonna buy in a grocery store. Like, period.
Yes,
If you're
right.
now, and correct me if I'm wrong, right now, nowadays, if you're gonna buy something at a grocery store, it's not to anywhere near the top of this pyramid standard.
Correct.
Not even close.
That-
Not even
that is
close.
correct. Yes.
Because there's
That's
so
correct.
much deceptive marketing. You gotta
Yes.
go find the local sources.
Yeah.
Find someone. If Primal Pastures doesn't deliver to your area, find someone who does.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in my house, we use Harvest to You for our vegetables. They come to our door.
Yeah.
We get our eggs from here, from Pia, also from Harvest to You. And if it's not from those places, it's just not even going to meet these
yeah,
standards.
and you get a box from
Primal
Pastures.
twice a month we get
Yeah.
a big box from
Yeah.
Primal Pastures.
Right.
That's the only meat that we keep in our freezer,
Right.
working up to buying a bigger slice of the animal so that it saves us a little bit of money down the
sure.
road. But even today I had people in the store saying like, oh my gosh, that's so expensive to feed a family of 5. And of course my response to that is, well, I feed 8 and this is my priority. And that's what I
Right.
said. This is my priority.
Priorities.
We don't go out
Yes.
to eat.
Yes.
I don't shop, I don't buy the expensive purses or whatever it is. This is the priority for my family is the food.
Yes.
And so yes, my food budget is much higher than most people's food budget, but I don't care because that's the only thing I care about.
Right.
Yes.
And what I love about the pyramid is all you're ever going to do is your best.
Yes.
Right.
But know what
Yes.
you're getting.
You at
you know?
least know what you're getting, and this is what we're trying to do
Yeah.
with the I Am a Clean Eater platform.
Exactly.
Is to educate people on what you're buying. And if you decide that you're okay with buying industrial food, at least you know that that's what you're getting.
Exactly.
That's what you're buying, and it's totally fine. We're not here to tell you what to buy.
Gives you the
We're just
information to make the
educating.
choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even
exactly.
if you did industrialized food and you wanted to make it a step up, but you couldn't go past that industrial, just stop eating the processed food.
Yes.
Totally.
Like just
exactly.
eat the meat, the vegetables, the eggs, the produce, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And know that that's even a better step for your family than the
Right.
Kraft mac and cheese and the
Absolutely.
boxed Twinkies and Ho-Hos and Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
And, I see these commercials that it's like, the really great wife is gonna like get up early and make her husband something so good for breakfast. So she goes to the freezer and pulls out the Jimmy Dean's and pops it in the microwave and hands him a fork. And it's so sweet, like she's in her robe leaving, and he's got his forked meal, and you just think like, okay, just don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Make the eggs and the bacon
Yes.
and put it together in a little to-go cup, and that's already fine. You want to do industrialized meat? That's great. We're going to teach you how to do that better.
Yes.
Give the dude an avocado and a fork and just
Yeah.
let him go. You'll be much better
And
off.
some salt.
Right.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
We are
Yes.
trying to fill like that. I do think there's a spot for industrial pasture. We're trying to fill it. It's very hard though. So Primal Pastures is the local organic pasture
Yes.
raised, top of the line. But I do think there's a spot for somebody like Vital Farms
Uh-huh.
on the meat side to hit a really solid product that's maybe available in grocery stores, but it's still quality.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not certified organic, but it's still truly outside on pasture, no drugs, good for the land, good for the environment. but it's not at that local organic
Right.
pasture raised,
Yeah.
and it's also not in a feedlot or grow house, you know.
Right.
So Pasture Bird is trying to fill that void because I think there's a market there that probably can't afford $25, $30 chicken
Right.
for their
Oh,
normal
yeah,
meals, you know.
absolutely. Exactly. But let's get to that Pasture Bird and Primal Pastures when we start to talk about local organic and
Sure.
local pasture. And I want to just drop down one thing that you had said to me before, Paul, and that was just like it was a wow moment for me, okay? And I want to get your opinion on it again. You had said if you're going to eat industrial meat at the industrial food level, pick red meat over white meat, or pick red meat in the form of cow,
Yep.
beef, instead of chicken.
Yep.
And so I because everybody is like, oh, you want lean meat and you want to have chicken, and we're going to go and get grilled chicken because that's going to be healthier. And so I think a lot of people are like, what happened?
Wait a minute.
We're not supposed to be eating chicken? It's
Right.
okay, so, right. So talk about that a little bit.
I kind of got that mindset from a friend, Diana Rogers, who's doing
Okay.
the sustainability kind of film, Kale versus Cow, and she's
Okay,
talking
that's
about all this
awesome.
stuff about red meat versus, you know, vegetarian, vegan, and she broke it down pretty simply. A conventional sort of industrial chicken starts indoors and it ends indoors, and it never goes outside, you know, and it's pumped full of so many different drugs, vaccines, antibiotics. If you go to the beef side, yeah, it does end its life that way in a kind of nasty feedlot situation, but for the first year, 12 months, 14 months, that animal is outside on pasture, eating grass only. That's just the model. That's the way the
Okay.
cattle works. A cow would die if it grew up in a feedlot and tried to survive its whole life there. The way that the beef industry works is it starts on pasture, usually in the Midwest somewhere. They graze, they range, they're sold in an auction. For the last 3 months, they go to the feedlot. So in my opinion,
Okay.
if you're going to go to that kind of industrial source, I would pick beef specifically, not pork. Pork is
Okay.
like the worst.
Okay, pork
Dairy
is the
maybe
worst.
the worst, and then pork right after that.
Okay.
Chicken very instantly following that, but I think beef would probably be the healthiest.
So beef, not that we're promoting somebody buy industrial.
If you're on a
But
super tight
if
budget,
you're doing that,
yeah.
pick beef.
I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the one after that would be lamb.
Yep.
Okay. And then the one after that would be chicken.
Yep.
And then the least one is pork.
Pork, well, dairy. I think dairy is
Okay,
terrifying
dairy
to me.
for for
too.
any,
I feel the same
yeah,
way.
But dairy in the sense of milk and cheese.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. That's the worst.
I think
at
so.
The industrial level.
Yeah, I'd go from the bottom. I'd go dairy
Okay.
up to pork, chicken, lamb, beef. It's all bad.
Yes,
But it's like
but
it's
it's like,
less
okay,
bad
there's
kind of
the-
thing. Yeah.
There's the tiered system before you get to the tiered system.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. And is that the same tiered system for industrial organic?
Yeah. It's
Okay, it's the
same thing.
It's the same thing. Okay, okay. So now we're getting
Cows
to,
aren't meant to have grain, but if you are going to feed them grain and get them kind of sick, then make it organic grain. You know,
Yeah.
that's better,
right,
but it's not good.
but it's not good.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now getting to our kind of to the top of the pyramid, we're talking about the best items to buy are local organic and local pasture. So making available, going to the farmer's market,
Yep.
being able to talk to the farmer, understanding the farming practices. Of course, we're with Farmer Paul from Primal Pastures and also Pasture Bird.
Yep.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the differences between what Primal Pastures is and what Pasture Bird is?
Yeah.
Because they're both at this level of local pasture.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, this is again, we kind of focus on poultry with this, just because
Okay.
that's kind of our sweet
Yes.
spot, and I'm
Uh-huh.
happy to talk about beef or lamb or pork or any of that stuff, but sometimes it helps to like pick something to actually
Yes.
focus on. So, with poultry, you put poultry outside. Poultry is an omnivore animal, which means it's meant to eat meat, grains, grass, bugs, seeds, worm, everything. It's kind of like a human. You know, we're omnivores. We're not carnivores. We're not herbivores. We're that in between that can eat it all.
Okay.
Beef, very different. I mean, beef is an herbivore. It should never have grain throughout its whole life. It's meant to only eat grass. And those are two very different things. So we call it species-appropriate diet.
Okay.
The quality of those grains makes a big difference in the end result of the meat. So putting the animals out on pasture is like step one. I think that's awesome. That's what you want to do. That's going to reduce the need for the antibiotics, drugs, vaccines, all that stuff. It's good for the land. But where you can really differentiate it if it's being fed organic grains or if it's being non-organic grains, and even past that, what's in that organic grain?
Yes.
Is there soy in there? Is
Right.
it not soy? That's
Right.
kind of what differentiates us. Is we do a
Okay.
soy-free, certified organic,
Beautiful.
on pasture, no drugs, antibiotics. That's the Primal Pastures. But what happened was three years into that business, we started getting a lot of chefs, butchers, grocery stores that said like, man, I would love to buy like true local pasture-raised chicken, but I can't pay $7 a pound. I have a restaurant, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so for us, we said, no, we're not going to do it. We can't do it for a long time. And then finally it was like, these guys, they're buying stuff out of the factory farm. They don't want to.
Right.
And I can raise a chicken for much cheaper that's not on certified organic grain. So what would it look like if we did a true pasture-raised, grass, bugs, seeds, worms, but the supplement is not certified organic? One step down, obviously, but still so much better than what you get in the grocery store, what's available to them through distribution. So we started Pasture Bird to kind of service that middle market in between industrial organic or industrial pasture, not quite at the level of like certified organic pasture raised.
Right.
And it hits that spot pretty good. So we've been able to get into some restaurants, get true pastured chicken on menus and into butcher shops and stuff, and that's been pretty cool. But of course, if you can afford it, like certified organic, soy-free, pasture-raised, that's the gold standard for
Which is what
chicken.
Primal Pastures is.
Yeah, and that's what you have available here in the store too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes, and that's what I eat. I know that's what you eat, and yes, and that's what we encourage, and that's what we educate people in the store about. What is the difference between these levels? Because that's what it takes. It takes education.
The equivalent of that on the beef side would be grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised, no grain ever.
Okay.
You know, that's the equivalent of kind of like that local pasture-raised organic. With cows, they should never touch grain.
Right.
And in my opinion, they should never go to the feedlot either, because what happens, first of all, every cow is grass-fed. If you go, again, if you're sitting at your computer, go to the American Grass-Fed Association, look up what it means to be grass-fed. That means that you were 3 months or less in a feedlot, and you can call it grass-fed. Well, cows don't go to the feedlot for more than 3 months, you know? So it's a total loophole that they use. So then they came up with grass-finished. Well, let's do grass-finished. That's much better, right? All that grass-finished means they could be in the feedlot as long as they're still giving them grass, and that's grass-finished too, right? So they're still up to their waist in poop, and it's disgusting, and it's antibiotics and everything else. That's still grass-finished. Pasture-raised, again, same thing. I mean, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's not federally regulated. You can kind of put it on whatever you want. So the key is knowing your farmer, knowing where it's coming. That's why local is so important.
Local, yes.
Just because it comes from a farmer's market doesn't mean it's always good,
Right.
but it's a good start if they're there.
Yes, exactly. It's the conversation, and again, going back to the 10 Commandments for clean eating, one of the commandments is ask questions. And so that's so important, is to be able to be front and center, just like this, and be able to ask the farmer the questions.
You had a good point coming up too, I think. Find somebody who's proud of what
Find
they
somebody
do.
who's proud.
Yeah.
Find someone who's proud. Someone who's willing to shout from the mountain, like, this is what I'm doing.
Yes.
Totally.
Minus the ones with the big trucks that say, like, 100% vegetarian fed. They're playing off the fact that most people don't understand that chickens are not vegetarians. But find somebody who's proud.
Yes.
Find somebody who's willing to come sit down with us and have this conversation because they're so proud of what they're doing. And if you can find that, if you can build those connections, then you can feel comfortable with what you're feeding your family.
One of my main hacks is always say, when you go to the farmer's market, ask if you can take a tour of the farm. You don't even have to go.
Right.
But if the guy says no, that's a really, really, really bad sign.
Yes, that's a great
it's waving
question.
right here. Or say, hey, do you have any pictures on your phone of your farm? And if he's like, doesn't want to show him, or if you call him up and it's just dirt everywhere and he's trying to say pasture raised, not a good sign, right?
He's wearing a hazmat suit.
Not a good start.
Right. Yeah, this is my son in his hazmat suit walking from the garage to the house because it's not safe. Like, not a good sign.
Right.
This is the 21st century. We have social media, we have Facebook, Instagram. Usually if a farm's doing a good job, they're proud of it.
Yes.
And they're posting all the time.
Yeah.
You can fake it, sure, but it's at least a good start. If you go on their page and you see lots of pictures of happy-looking animals on grass, it's a good start.
Yes.
There's not too many blatant liars in the industry, I don't think. So there are some.
Before we get to the top of the pyramid, Sharissa, can you talk a little bit about the health benefits of choosing pasture-raised? We know the differences of omega-6s versus omega-3s when it comes into beef, and what are some of the benefits of doing, we want to stick with poultry, of having this level, how does this interact? Like, I know it's hormones and
so many things. So really it's not, we don't want to put anything in our body that our body's going to have to fight off. So the point of eating food is to rebuild cells, to rebuild muscles. If you're exercising, you go to the gym, you break down your muscles, you're eating food to rebuild the muscles, right? If you're going to eat protein, you want meat as your protein, or even vegetables that are non-organic, things like this. You're putting in your body foods that your body's going to have to fight to get out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's how quickly can I get this stored in my fat cells, get it out through the digestive system, get it out through the kidneys, get it out through the liver. How fast can we get it out of your body? When you're eating good foods like this, like pasture-raised, really clean, organic, local foods, your body's going to be like, oh, thank you so much for all these really good, excuse me,
for all these really good points is what you're saying.
Thank you for everything that you're putting in, versus having to fight it off. So if you're putting in the antibiotics, the hormones, thank you, I don't know what happened.
Sorry.
Thanks. The hormones, the antibiotics, the drugs, like aspirin that they put into chickens so that they lay bigger eggs, so that they'll last longer. The dairy industry that you're like, I get the argument all the time, but my kids need to drink whole milk every night. Well, they don't actually.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, it's actually robbing them of their bones, their teeth, their eyes. Like, we're seeing so many problems that we wouldn't even have if we just ate real food that was our body was able to digest it. And when we're eating these toxins, these things that the animal that you're eating wasn't even able to digest, right? Like, you're talking about the cows, they should never have grains because they were designed by whoever you think the designer is to have two stomachs. One to digest the grass, and the other one to turn all of that grass into protein that we can then get and digest as B vitamins and all of the things that we need. It's a perfect system that we went ahead and screwed up because we were trying to feed the masses, which just makes sense, right?
Right.
So when we're eating, it's such a loaded question to say, like, what's the health benefit or what's the problem? When you're eating the foods that your body has to attack against, to fight against, then we're going to go up a whole new slew of issues, right? I'm 31 years old and I'm antibiotic resistant. I cannot take antibiotics for a problem because my body doesn't accept them anymore, right? It just doesn't even matter. And people want to know, like, how does that even happen? How does it happen when your kid goes in for an ear infection, you give them antibiotics, and a month later you go back and they still have the ear infection? Because the antibiotics didn't work, because you've been slowly pumping antibiotics into your kid for the last 5-10 years. That happened to me. I'm only 31 years old and I can't do things like amoxicillin if I have a real infection. I have to go into the higher class drugs in order to have the same effect because we've been eating it so much. So it's not just a question of what is it going to do to hurt you or help you. It's a matter of your body is having to fight against what you're putting in.
Okay, that's an excellent point.
It's so insane. Like, you could have just done that entire rant on farming too.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is
all
so
of
weird because
it all
like
matches equally. Yes.
the rebuilding, the regeneration, the way you manage animals, that actually helps the land when you do it the right way.
Yes.
It builds it up and makes everything better and better all the time. Antibiotic resistance, even. I mean, you talk about antibiotic resistance in farming, it's insane how bad it's getting. You go to poultry communities all over the U.S. and there's girls getting their period at 8-9 years old because of the hormones in the air. I mean, that regeneration, that idea of like building the soil, building your body, it all goes together.
I know it's awful because it's causing more problems than it's helping with.
Totally.
And we think we're doing something so good for our families, and that's my big thing, right? Like, it's not even about me anymore, it's about the next generation.
Yes.
And what am I doing for them that's going to create more problems? Like we did when my daughter was 2 years old. She got a UTI and we gave her amoxicillin. Amoxicillin, if you go to CVS and get the kids amoxicillin, it has red dye in it. The red dye gave her the most insane, like, ADD, insomnia for 3 days to fight a UTI. Like, what? I'm thinking I'm doing something good for my daughter, and I was hurting her so much more. So it's not even And then those are the antibiotics that are being fed to the animals that we're then feeding to our children because we think we're doing something so good. Right? Like, oh, I'm going to make sure my kids eat protein, so I'm going to take them to get chicken nuggets. Right? And then what we're really giving them is a mouthful of antibiotics, hormones. It's not even just the periods at the young age. We see these little kids that are round. See those round little kids? That's estrogen dominance. You're not getting the estrogen out of your body, that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. That's ovarian cancer, that's testicular cancer, that's for little boys who are who are growing boobs, who are not having normal male lives because they're being pumped in these horrible things. And that's not even just look at the health of the animals. And then look at the health of us. We're just not eating the things we were meant to eat anymore, right? So, just look at the anatomy of the animals that you're eating. And if it says 100% vegetarian fed and you know that animal isn't a vegetarian, that animal's going to be sick before you even get it. So what's that going to do to you? Really, roll it back.
Right. We might need to do a part 2 on this because on the whole impacts But we do know that true grass-fed beef is higher in omega-3s versus omega-6s.
Not to mention your B vitamins, all the vitamins that you need. All the vitamins that come in the grass that we can't go out and eat grass, right? We don't have the ability, the digestive system to do it. They do. And that nutrient complex that the animal is supposed to break down, we're supposed to get in their meat. But if we're eating grain-fed animals that are not supposed to have grains, we're not getting the nutrients from them either.
In the same way, chicken, a lot of us aren't meant to have grains. I don't do real well on grains.
I don't at all.
But the chicken has a gizzard, which is meant to sprout that grain, stone grind that grain, make it nutritionally available, digest that grain, and pass it on to me in a form that I can tolerate really well. It's kind of similar to grass-fed. People make that mistake sometimes.
But it can't only live on grain. It's got to have the protein. It's got to have all the things. Because they have a very similar amino acid breakdown that we do. They've got to have the protein. And it's not like animals that are the cows that are breaking down the grass as protein. They're not doing it. They got to have it. So we're already getting a sick animal. So if you put sick into healthy, what do you think you're going to get?
And it's not called flu season, right?
It's toxic.
It's called toxic season.
Yes,
exactly.
It's total aside, and we're going to have to touch on it another time. But people who started the workout program in January, this is the saddest thing to me. All my friends were like, oh, I'm going to work out, I'm going to hit the gym, but they never did before. Working out is a very detoxifying thing, right? You're pushing out those toxins. They all got sick. All of them. And you want to start a new program? I'm going to go to the gym every single day. By week 2, maybe week 3, you got the flu. And it wasn't the flu. It was your body getting all those toxins out because you were pushing it out through your sweat glands. It made you sick. It wasn't because there was somebody around breathing on you. It was because your body inside of you is so sludged up that when you started pushing it out to get healthier, your body tried. It's trying to take the life raft. But that's going to make you sick.
So let's roll it back a little bit here. We're almost at the top of our pyramid, where the top thing we always say, well, grow your own, right? Just if you can grow your own, herbs and all the different lettuces and all of that, but it's not feasible, right? I know I don't have a green thumb, and I tried, and I had
I'm so grateful that
garden.
You decided that you should, so that my family can eat the good meat.
Yes,
it's feasible for many more people than you realize, but not everybody.
Right. You're not going to go out and get 20 acres and then, I think I'll have cattle. And so what's required? Because one of the things that you guys do really well is turn the land. So if somebody did, if you're feeling really adventurous, and you're like, I think I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a farmer, and I'm going to go and find some land. What would be some of the steps to look for?
First of all, you don't need very much land. We have customers. We've gotten into this live chicken thing that we're doing more now. Backyard chickens, selling ready-to-lay hens, selling chicks that are ready to, lay in 6 months or whatever.
Awesome.
And there's so many people all over LA, Santa Monica, that have chickens in their backyard. It's the easiest, the coolest. It's very cool now, These animals, you throw them some food scraps, they don't need a single ounce of grain, and they can produce eggs, and they're better than a dog, in my opinion. You can't sit them on your lap and pet them quite as easily, but they'll give you eggs, so what the heck.
It's a better trade, in my opinion. My dog
trade.
needs my shoes, so if I gotta get eggs, I'm gonna trade them in.
Herb garden. everybody can do an herb garden.
Yes,
I
herb
think.
garden's easy.
And it's amazing. Grow a little basil, maybe some rosemary, maybe a little lemon tree in your backyard,
Yes.
orange tree, whatever.
Got that. Check. Okay, good.
And this is stuff that just speaks to your soul as a human
Yes.
being, too. It's not so much
Right.
like, oh, I produce 75% of what I eat. That's cool if you can do that.
Yeah,
More
for
of like
sure.
a homesteading situation, probably. But
Right.
just for the average, normal urban person, it feels good to have some food growing in your house.
Yes.
Because I think that
And with the
100 years
kids.
ago, too, it's amazing.
Show them
for the
where
kids.
food
Yes,
comes
just
from.
show them where the food comes from.
Totally.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yes.
come from a drive-through.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people have a lawn. They could probably pull up a few of the ornamentals and replace them with food-producing crops. I mean, it's happening all over the place.
Yes.
Starting with chickens is a really good place to do it.
Okay.
The egg layers, they're really easy to take care of. Your neighbors will be happy as long as you bring in a dozen eggs every once in a while. You can do a great job with eggs
Well,
in
it's
your
good fertilizer
backyard.
too, right?
Amazing
So
fertilizer.
then, like, get in the circle of life.
Totally.
Awesome.
And how does that work, that turning the land?
Okay, so we got to back it up a second. In nature, nothing's ever stationary. So if you
Okay.
look at animal populations, bison, wildebeest, doesn't matter. They're always eating, pooping on the ground. Once the grass is gone, the poop's on the land. They don't want to stay there anymore, so they move to the next spot.
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, there's predator problems, so they stay packed together in this herd. Eat, poop, move, eat, poop, move, and that happens for millions of years. You know,
Okay.
that system, when the poop goes down into the ground, it fertilizes the ground. The soil can absorb the nutrients from that, and it can actually regenerate, rebuild, like we're talking about, and grow a healthier crop the next year. So we practice this thing where we'll rest the land for 90 days between every time. So the chickens, where they are today, they'll move tomorrow morning, and that spot won't get grazed again for 90 more days. And that allows all that manure to absorb into the soil, to build up that soil, to get more organic matter, it can retain more water in the ground, it can produce more food. Everything is good about it because it's going down at a good rate and it's not being regrazed again right away. So
Okay.
in a backyard environment, that would be like, don't just leave your coop in one spot forever. It'll start to smell, the chickens will get sick, they're walking and eating in their own poop. Like, you want to move them every once in a while.
Okay.
Basically, when it starts to smell, you need
Yeah.
to move them.
You're like,
It's
okay,
really
that's a
simple.
sign. Okay.
Yeah, pay
Okay.
attention to your animals, and it's not that hard to do.
Okay.
Well,
So
you don't want a
that's-
smelly backyard anyways. So I think
Exactly.
that's a win-win in my book.
Okay, so those are some good tips.
Yeah.
And what would happen if somebody wanted to get really adventurous and have some cattle?
Oh, dang.
Where would that fit in the?
You're gonna need a little bit bigger backyard for the cows.
Not gonna do it in LA.
I think cattle's the hardest one to jump into, personally.
Okay.
I've always wanted to do cattle production, especially here in Southern California. It's dry, land prices are high. That's good for chicken, really bad for cows. So you're looking at a few $1,000s if you want to get one good cow. I would start, if you're going to do something in the backyard, do dairy. If you're a raw dairy person,
Mm-hmm.
cheese, buttermilk, all that good stuff, cream. I mean, I would get one dairy cow and absolutely get into that. Try to get into your own beef. You're going to need probably like 5 acres unless you got irrigation and some other stuff, but getting into your own beef is definitely more challenging.
Step up. That's,
For sure.
okay.
That's the hardest one
Start
by
with the
far.
chickens.
Yes.
Then go into
Do
pigs.
some grit. Do some.
Okay, then pigs.
Pigs are
herbs.
awesome for the backyard. We sell a piglet called a kuni that's like a grass eater. They don't root, so you could actually keep them in your backyard. You may fall in love with it. That makes the bacon a little harder to eat because they're really cute and friendly. But the kuni is a great backyard pig if you want to do a few for meat or whatever. Maybe half an acre would be plenty for a few pigs.
How big does the kuni get?
Only like 200 pounds, 250 at the most.
Oh, no.
Hold on, though.
Okay.
So industrial pork, 350, 400 or 500 pounds sometimes. So,
Oh, my.
I mean, in a kuni, I always feel comfortable because I can wrestle them in a fight. I will win. So
I don't
if
know
they
that I
get
could
crazy
go
with me,
200 pounds. I'm like, I'm all.
I've wrestled a few in my life. So yeah.
That is so awesome. Well, this was such an amazing interview. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Sharissa, do
absolutely.
you have any last minute questions for
No,
our
I'm just
special
so grateful.
guest?
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank
coming.
you guys.
And thanks for doing what you're doing because
Yes,
that provides this for us.
absolutely.
Like, I'm obviously never going to get into beef. Well, I shouldn't say never, but
Hey, never.
Yeah.
I have no
I would have never thought I'd get in
intention
chicken. trust me.
right now of
Yeah.
getting into beef. I
There
would
you go.
love to do chickens. We're in a HOA. We're not allowed, but at some point, it's on my list in the 5-year goal. But we're so appreciative. So we're
Yes,
really grateful to have you guys
absolutely.
here,
Yeah.
local for
So we're
us.
so lucky
I
to be
get,
here.
you know, I get
Yes.
the shipment order like one day, and then it's on my doorstep the next day. Like Paul said, he's got shipping to 8 to 10 states around.
Where are the states that you're shipping to?
The whole West Coast, and then I think it's like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, Utah, maybe Idaho. Oh, we hit Idaho. I think that's it.
Oh, that's great.
Beautiful. So if you're in those
Yes.
areas, you can go primalpastures.com.
Mhm.
The way I do it, I do their farm boxes or their farm whatever
Farmer
it's
stash.
farmer stash
Yeah.
boxes. Yeah. So I do a couple $100s a month. I get It makes it really inexpensive for me, and I'm able to feed my family pretty reasonably within my budget.
Yeah.
And we never have to go outside of that. So that for me makes it really great. I never have to go to the store and buy anything extra to supplement, even though every now and then I do get my eggs that way. But if you don't have something that's local for you or in this area, is there anything, any way that they can find someone like you guys if they're on the East Coast or somewhere else?
So there's a website called eatwild.com.
Beautiful.
I highly recommend
We're
it.
on that site too.
National map that
Yes.
shows a pin drop for all the local pasture-based farms. It's self-verified, so take every single one with a grain of salt. There's nobody going out and saying, yeah, this one's real, this one's not.
Okay.
But I think it's a great starting point.
Then they can call
you can
and
call.
start asking questions. So
Exactly.
eatwild.com.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and put that link in our comments below so that you guys can find that easily. And make sure that you check out both Paul's website and that one if you're on the East Coast. And just get started. Even if you just order, like, they have really amazing sausages or bacon. Maybe if you just start, the chickens are not, super inexpensive, but if you did one chicken a month and you knew my family is going to get this Sunday dinner that's so incredibly amazing. Pia and I are always trying to challenge people, just start somewhere.
Exactly.
Do
One thing.
something,
Yes,
even
absolutely.
if it's one thing. If you budget that you can do one organic, pasture-raised local meal a month, we are so excited for you, and we would love to hear about that meal. Post a picture on our website. Post a picture in the comments below. We cannot wait to hear how this has changed you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and if you're local, for those of you guys on our Instagram, definitely this is Artisan's Palate. It's here in Temecula. It's the best local food store that we have in town, probably in the whole county.
It really is.
We sell our Primal Pastures meats here, so stop on by and definitely check it out. And if you're ever like sick or having a problem, this is better than the doctor. Like, come here and talk to Pia and they will fix you. Trust me. My family is big and we're here all the time. So.
That's true.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks, Sharissa. I want to close with, Sharissa, can you give your information, please? Because you gave such great nutritional advice.
Oh, thank you so much.
And for somebody that needs some help moving forward and getting their own their own plan that you can build for them, how do they contact you?
So I'll go ahead and link my my scheduling below. I offer everybody a free 15-minute phone call, so that's no risk offer for you. Go ahead and just click the link, sign up for the free 15-minute call. I'll call you and we can talk about specifically what your goals are. And what I do in my business is I set up a plan for you and then we work towards your goals. So whatever it is that you're looking to do, if it's just that you're looking to incorporate a little bit more into your life, we absolutely have the resources for that, and I'd love to help you in any way that I can. So that link will be below, as well as the link to find your local farms. I'll also link to find your local CSAs, because I just think, even though we're talking about meat, you should also be looking at your produce.
Absolutely.
Tell for these guys, because they might not see your link, where can they find you?
So social media. So I'm
Sharissa
Bradley, the Doctor of Food. So you can go facebook.com/Doctor of Food or Instagram @Doctor of Food, and you'll find me at either of those places or SharissaBradley.com. So and I'm also in Artisan Palate.
And also on I Am a Clean Eater.
Oh yeah, my blog lives on I Am a Clean Eater, so I'm everywhere. Just Sharissa, where are you?
And sometimes you can find her here in the store at Artisan's Palate.
That's true.
So if you're looking to follow us through social media, also check out www.iamacleaneater.com. That's our website. I Am a Clean Eater are the handles, the social handles for Facebook and Instagram. And of course, we're recording here in the store at Artisan's Palate. So that's going to do it for us today. We're so thrilled. Thank you, everybody. Thank you guys out there. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
All right.